The glow of Alex's laptop screen was the only light in the room. It was past midnight again. Emails blinked unread, Slack messages stacked like a tower about to fall, and the gentle hum of the fridge was the only background sound in their apartment. Outside the high-rise window, the city was quiet, unaware of the storm unraveling inside one person's head. The unread copy of Meditations rested beneath a stack of quarterly reports. A yellowed bookmark poked out from a page never turned. Alex hadn't touched it in months. Every day felt like a sprint on a treadmill that wouldn't stop. From morning stand-ups to late-night client decks, the tempo never slowed. Maya had texted hours ago. Still at the office? Again? But Alex left it unread. She always meant well. But what would she say this time? Take a break? Talk to someone? The advice sounded like a luxury. The cursor blinked in the corner of the screen as if waiting for an answer to a question Alex didn't know how to ask. The pitch deck was due by morning. Every slide felt wrong. Nothing measured up. The numbers didn't tell the story. The story didn't justify the numbers. And the client, they were expecting magic. By the time Alex shut the lid, it was 2:17 a.m. The apartment was too quiet. Alex kicked off their shoes, collapsed into the couch and stared at the ceiling. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was pressure without noise. Somewhere deep in their chest, a knot pulled tighter. Their jaw ached from clenching. Breath came fast, shallow, and then it snapped. The panic attack hit like a wave. It wasn't screaming or flailing. It was curling up on the cold tile of the kitchen floor, trying to breathe past the invisible weight crushing the chest. It was the racing mind spinning through deadlines, expectations, mistakes, judgments. It was the thought, I can't fail, looping like a broken record. Time passed, but Alex wasn't sure how long. Minutes, hours. Eventually, the breath slowed. Not by choice, just by fatigue. They lay there in the dark, eyes unfocused, pulse slowing. Then came the whisper, barely audible, not even meant for anyone to hear. Something has to change, Alex whispered into the dark. You're not sleeping again, are you? Maya asked, gently but firmly. Alex stirred their coffee without looking up. The cafe was half empty, but the noise in Alex's head was loud. Deadlines, unread emails, what-ifs and should-haves. All of it swirled behind their eyes, masked by a tired smile. Maya leaned forward. You missed our team check-in yesterday. You've got circles under your circles. Alex shrugged. Just trying to catch up. That's all. The truth, catching up never ended. For every task finished, 3 more took its place. Alex's to-do list was now a tower, and every day felt like defending it from collapse. At work, things didn't slow down. If anything, they spiraled. A key client canceled a major contract. Months of work undone by one unexpected decision. The boss didn't hide his frustration. The words weren't cruel, but the tone was a knife. We needed that. You were leading this. What happened? What happened? Alex didn't know. They'd done everything they could. Every call, every follow-up, every slide and strategy. And still, it slipped away. They sat at their desk, fists clenched under the table. The sting of failure wasn't just about the client. It was what it meant. That maybe they weren't good enough. That maybe all this effort still wasn't enough. Later that afternoon, Maya appeared beside their desk, quietly placing a small note before walking away. It was a post-it. One sentence, written in simple ink. Some things are up to us, others are not. Epictetus. Alex stared at the words. Something in them struck deeper than expected. They looked around. The office buzzed with forced urgency. But in this moment, it all felt still. The spinning thoughts didn't stop, but for once Alex wasn't swept into them. Instead, they reached into their backpack. Beneath a tangle of cables and receipts was a leather-bound journal. It hadn't been opened in years. Alex ran a hand over the cover, as if checking whether it still belonged to them. And then, slowly, they opened it. It had been years since Alex held a pen without pressure. They sat cross-legged on the living room floor, journal resting on their knees. Outside, rain tapped steadily against the glass, offering no urgency, just rhythm. The lamp above cast a soft glow, and for the first time in weeks, Alex didn't feel watched, evaluated, or timed. The first few lines came hesitantly, like clearing a dusty path. Scribbled words, crossed-out thoughts. But soon, the ink flowed more freely. They wrote about fear, not fear of failure. No, that was just the surface. What shook them was the fear of being exposed, of being seen not as competent, but as ordinary, replaceable. They wrote about the dream, the one where they sprinted through a hallway that never ended, doors slamming shut behind them. Always just one more to reach, always out of breath. Alex paused. Then, on a clean page, they drew a line down the center. On the left, what I control. On the right, what I don't. Under control, attitude, effort, integrity. Under not, client decisions, praise, timing, opinions. It felt small at first, trivial. But then, something loosened. They turned to a new page and asked the question, what is the worst that could happen? Losing the job? Being judged? Starting over? They imagined each in detail. Sitting at home unemployed, losing the title, explaining failure to family. They pictured the discomfort, the shame. And then, they moved through it. They imagined what could still remain. Friends, health, values. A chance to rebuild. It didn't feel like bravery, just honesty. And it was enough to breathe again. They wrote one last sentence for the night. Even if I fail, I can still live with virtue. The rain hadn't stopped, but the room felt quieter somehow, like the storm inside had paused, waiting. Their phone buzzed once on the table. A name lit up the screen. Mr. Din. Mr. Din's voice hadn't changed. It was still patient thunder. They sat at a small cafe table near the window, where afternoon light spilled through hanging plants and quiet jazz floated in the background. Alex hadn't seen him since graduation. Back then, he was the professor with odd books and unexpected calm. Now he looked older, yes, but not worn. Only still. I've been following your work, Mr. Din said, setting his cup down with care. You've gone far. Alex gave a small smile. Far enough to lose my breath. He chuckled. And what brings you back to an old philosophy teacher? Alex hesitated, then replied, I'm tired of reacting. Everything feels urgent, important, personal. I can't tell what's mine anymore. Mr. Din nodded, as if this was not unusual. He didn't rush to answer. Instead, he said, You ever watch clouds? Alex blinked. Clouds. They come, they go. You don't chase them, you don't fight them, you notice, you breathe. That afternoon they walked through the park, leaves curling into gold beneath their feet. The breeze tugged gently at Alex's sleeves. The air smelled of earth and quiet. Your thoughts, Mr. Din said, are clouds. Let them pass. They sat under a tree, one of those old ones whose roots broke the pavement. Mr. Din said nothing more, only watched. So Alex tried. They closed their eyes, not to escape, but to observe. Thoughts still came, deadlines, opinions, self-doubt, but instead of gripping each one, Alex named them silently. Pressure, fear, control, then let them go. Just like that. Thought, label, release. The breath deepened, the tension in their shoulders eased. A minute passed, then 5. When Alex opened their eyes, the world hadn't changed, but their grip on it had. They turned to thank Mr. Din, but he was already walking toward the cafe, giving space. The next morning, Alex stood at the office elevator. The same noise, the same emails, the same tasks waiting. But they walked in, not with dread, but with intention. What if success isn't the goal? Alex asked aloud, surprising even themselves. The words slipped out as they stared at the task list pinned to their monitor. Meetings, metrics, a last-minute budget issue. Same as always. But something inside had shifted. A week had passed since their walk with Mr. Din. The thoughts still came, of course. But now Alex met them with space, not submission. Across the office, Maya raised an eyebrow. "Say that again?" Alex turned, half smiling. "Nothing, just thinking out loud." The team was stretched thin. A new hire, Sophie, had been added to the roster, eager but clearly overwhelmed. Her screen froze during meetings. Her reports were sloppy. Rumors swirled that she wasn't going to last. Midday, Alex walked past the break room and caught Sophie at the table, staring blankly at her laptop. Her hand hovered over the keyboard, unmoving. Alex paused. A familiar feeling rose up, the tightrope between helping and getting dragged down. The voice inside returned. "You don't have time. Stay in your lane. Let someone else handle it." But then another voice, a quieter one. "Act with virtue. The outcome is not yours." Alex stepped in. "Hey, you got time to walk through that report?" Sophie's eyes widened. She nodded, surprised. They sat together, went line by line, not rushing, no judgment, just clarity. Later that afternoon, the boss called. His tone was sharp. "You were off the main deliverable today. That's not like you." Alex replied calmly. "Someone needed help. I made a call. It won't happen often. But it was right today." There was silence on the line. Then, "All right." It wasn't approval. But it didn't matter. That night, Alex opened their journal and wrote one sentence. "This too I choose." Not because it was easy, but because it was true. The deadline passed. The sky didn't fall. Alex sat alone on a bench at the edge of the park, watching late sunlight scatter through the leaves. A child's laugh echoed from somewhere nearby. A breeze stirred the trees gently. Nothing urgent, nothing needing to be fixed. It had been a quiet day, no promotions, no major wins. Just work, done well enough. A few thoughtful emails, a walk outside, an hour without multitasking. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Alex flipped through the journal. Page after page now filled with reflections, uncertainties, choices, clarity. The early entries were tight, frantic, like someone clinging to the edge. But gradually, the tone softened. Space appeared between the lines. On one page they'd written, "What if I fail?" A few weeks later, "What happens, happens." And now, "I do not resist what comes. I meet it as a friend." It wasn't that stress disappeared. Life still brought challenges. Projects changed. Expectations returned. But something fundamental had shifted. Alex no longer saw storms as punishments. They saw them as part of the weather. Their phone buzzed, but they didn't check it. Instead, they watched the wind ripple through the trees. Not one leaf resisted the breeze. They simply moved with it. And for the first time in months, they simply sat and smiled. The trees stood quiet as dusk settled, their leaves shimmering like slow breath in the wind. Nothing needed to be added. Nothing needed to be fixed. In learning to yield, Alex had discovered a deeper strength, the kind that does not shout, but stays. Even in stillness, there is motion. Even in letting go, there is choosing. Perhaps today is another chance to meet life as it is. No resistance, no armor, just presence.